Small details of nature would often catch Merlin's eye. One day, when he and the boy Arthur were walking in the woods, they heard a jaybird scolding them from a nearby pine tree.
Stop. Look.
The jay was a nervous, erratic bird. After chattering at the two intruders, it flew to another branch for a better view. Then, after a few seconds, grew dissatisfied and flew to a third. Next, it forgot that they were there and hopped to the ground to investigate a pine cone. In a matter of seconds, it splashed in a small pool, chased a gray wren, and started pecking at a piece of rotten bark.
What do you think of that as a way of life?
Very little. He seems like a brainless featherball that has no idea what to do next.
So it appears, whenever a creature lives solely trusting in God. It spends its day following one impulse after another with no thought to the future, and yet it gets along well enough, you have to admit.
This little lesson tells us that it is possible to live with total trust in spirit. Even though we may revere and hold seers in awe, their life is really very simple. They follow whatever they feel in the moment, trusting that it is a pure impulse of their souls. In this sixth step of the seer, we are getting back to innocence once more, free of fear and the ego's ulterior motives, its constant need to defend and possess. Thus the seer lives very close to the source of love. Once you rid your perception of fear, what you see is love. Ultimately, there's nothing else. Merlin now takes us into the full light of the sun with the seventh and last stage of alchemy.
It's hard to imagine that there could be any higher stage of life than the seer, Galahad said after a moment, deeply impressed by Merlin's discourse.
Be careful with that word, higher. It's the ego that must have high and low. The goal of your life is freedom and fulfillment, as I've said several times. Fulfillment isn't achieved until you know God as completely as he knows himself. You mortals are always yearning for miracles, and I tell you that the greatest miracle is yourself, for God has gifted you with this unique ability to identify with his nature. A perfect rose yet does not sense that it is a rose. A fulfilled human knows what it means to be divine.
Can this state be described? Asked Percival.
Yes. It is the seventh and final step of alchemy, pure spirit. When it dawns, the seer finds that what seems to be total joy and fulfillment can still expand. You see, arriving in the presence of God is not the end of your quest, but the beginning. You began in innocence, and so shall you end. But this time the innocence is different because you have gained complete knowledge, whereas a baby has only feeling. When you are able to see yourself as pure spirit, your identification with this body and this mind will cease. The very concepts of birth and death will cease. Instead, you will be a cell in the body of the universe, and this cosmic body will be as intimate to you as your own body is to you now.
The earlier stages of spiritual transformation are guided from within by the inner wizard. With this seventh step, the realization of pure spirit, you become the wizard. What does this mean? Many accepted beliefs change to their very core. For example, birth for a wizard is merely the idea, I have this body, and death is merely the idea, I no longer have this body. Since wizards are not under the illusion of space and time, any body they take on is seen as a pattern of energy, any mind as a pattern of information. These patterns change, they come and go, but the wizard himself is beyond change. Mind and body are like rooms one might choose to live in, but not all the time. The wizard chooses to live a life of spirit in its eternal, timeless power and purity. No amount of mental activity can approximate this final transformation or bring it to you. Spirit is born of pure silence. Your internal dialogue must cease. Your fragmented self, driven by desires of every kind and description, will be unified at last, and like the baby that was your beginning, you will feel no doubt, no shame, no guilt. The ego's addiction to duality resulted in a world of good and bad, right and wrong, light and shadow. Now you will see that these opposites are fused. Such is God's perspective, for everywhere she looks, all she sees is herself. To say that life is a miracle sounds like a cliche, but that is the natural perspective of someone who has transcended all boundaries to live the totally free life of the wizard. The miracle of life dawns in 3 phases. First, you begin to witness miracles. Second, you begin to create miracles. Third, you become the miracle. What does miracle mean? It means creating anything you want from your own intention, to join the Creator as co-creator of your own reality. In the final stage of alchemy, the state of unity, every desire you have speaks directly to the creative mechanics of nature. There is no separation between the dreamer and the dream. Therefore, all possibilities are open to you. After all, the field of pure awareness is nothing but infinite possibilities. It is the raw spirit from which all of creation pours. The birth into spirit is a tremendous event which each of us is destined for. As unity ripens, you will become more and more familiar with the divine, until finally you will experience God as an infinite being moving at infinite space through infinite dimensions at infinite speed. When that experience dawns, it will seem as natural and simple as sitting here today or looking up at night at the stars. Yet each dancing star will be yourself. Having taken you full circle from innocence to innocence, I want to end with Merlin's version of unity, the final achievement of the Holy Grail.